March 18, 1945. 3:42 a.m. Peenemünde, Baltic coast. The ground trembles before the sound arrives. A deep, rolling vibration moves through the concrete bunkers and pine forests, rattling instruments and shaking dust from the ceiling. Engineers freeze in place. Technicians stop breathing. For a brief moment, no one speaks. Then the flame erupts. A column of fire blasts downward, brighter than day, turning night into blinding white. Steel groans. The air itself seems to bend as the rocket rises slowly at first, then faster, tearing upward into the darkness. You can almost feel the heat on your face. This is the future, they tell themselves. Inside the control bunker, German scientists watch their creation climb into the sky. Dials spin, gauges settle, data pours in. Years of theory, secrecy, and desperation are finally airborne. The V2 rocket is flying. For a few seconds, everything feels possible. This machine carries no pilot. It cannot be intercepted. It falls from the edge of space at supersonic speed. No warning, no defense, a weapon beyond anything the Allies have faced before. And yet, as the rocket disappears into the clouds, a quiet truth hangs in the air. Time is already gone. Germany did not build this weapon to win a war that was going well. It built it because the war was slipping away. Factories were burning. Cities were rubble. Skilled workers were dead or scattered. Fuel was scarce. Raw materials rarer still. This rocket is not born from confidence. It is born from panic. Across Germany, similar scenes are unfolding. Engineers rush half-finished designs into production. Jet aircraft that promise impossible speed. Submarines that can remain submerged for days. Guided bombs that can strike ships from miles away. On paper, they are terrifying. In reality, they are late. You can almost sense the contradiction tearing at the German war effort. The Reich still possesses some of the brightest scientific minds in the world. Men like Wernher von Braun, Hans von Ohain, and countless unnamed engineers are pushing boundaries faster than anyone else. But science does not fight wars alone. Factories do, workers do, supply chains do. And Germany is losing all three. Allied bombers roar overhead night after night, flattening industrial centers. Assembly lines are moved underground, then moved again. Production is fragmented, delayed, sabotaged by chaos and fear. A jet fighter might be revolutionary, but it still needs fuel. A rocket might outrun any interceptor, but it still needs to be built. German leadership clings to the idea of a miracle weapon. A single breakthrough that will shock the Allies into retreat. A device so advanced it will erase years of strategic failure. They call them Wunderwaffen. Wonder weapons. The name alone carries hope. But hope cannot repair rail lines. It cannot train pilots overnight. It cannot replace factories turned to ash. Even as prototypes succeed, the front lines collapse. Experienced pilots die faster than they can be replaced. Mechanics work with untested parts under constant bombardment. New weapons arrive in units too small to matter. A handful of jets cannot stop thousands of bombers. A few rockets cannot change an entire war. Still, the belief persists. Inside underground facilities, engineers work longer hours. Corners are cut. Designs are rushed. Weapons are fielded before they are ready, because waiting feels worse than failure. You can almost feel the desperation in every decision. Germany is no longer choosing the best path. It is choosing the fastest. By the time these weapons reach the battlefield, the Allies are already adapting. They disperse targets. They adjust tactics. They overwhelm with numbers and logistics. The future has arrived. But it has arrived to a present that cannot support it. And as the rocket test fades into silence over Peenemünde, one question lingers in the minds of those watching. What if this had come sooner? What if science had not outrun reality, but matched it? Germany built weapons that belonged to the next war. They needed them for this one. Spring 1944. Deep underground in central Germany. The factory does not look like a factory. It looks like a wound cut into the mountain. Dim lights stretch down endless tunnels. Moisture drips from concrete ceilings. The air smells of oil, sweat, and fear. Rows of unfinished weapons line the walls, their metal skins cold and lifeless, waiting for parts that may never arrive. This is Mittelwerk. Here, Germany is trying to turn brilliance into numbers. The V2 rockets are assembled piece by piece beneath the earth, safe from bombers but trapped by reality. Each rocket requires precision manufacturing, rare materials, and skilled labor. All of those are disappearing. You can almost feel the contradiction pressing in. Above ground, Allied aircraft dominate the sky. Rail yards are destroyed faster than they can be repaired. Power stations are bombed. Transportation collapses in fragments. What survives one raid is finished by the next. Below ground, engineers push harder. They shorten tests. They accept flaws that would once have stopped production. They tell themselves that even imperfect weapons are better than none. A rocket that explodes on launch still terrifies the enemy. A jet that breaks down after 10 hours of flight still forces bombers to fly higher. That is the logic now. Across the Reich, similar decisions are being made. The Me-262, the world's first operational jet fighter, begins entering service. On paper, it is unstoppable, faster than any Allied aircraft, heavily armed, a true predator of the skies. In the air, it proves everything its designers promised. On the ground, it collapses. The engines are delicate. They burn out quickly. Fuel shortages limit flight hours. Runways are cratered faster than they can be repaired. Trained pilots are rare, and training new ones takes time Germany no longer has. You can almost feel how close success seems, and how unreachable it actually is. Each new weapon requires an ecosystem to survive: maintenance crews, spare parts, training pipelines, secure bases, fuel, electricity, transportation. Germany no longer controls any of that consistently. Allied bombing does not just destroy factories, it destroys rhythm, schedules vanish, coordination breaks down. A wing produced in one city waits weeks for an engine from another. A finished aircraft sits useless because there is no fuel to fly it. Even the most advanced design is helpless without timing. German scientists know this. Many argue quietly that the weapons should have been built years earlier, that resources were wasted on projects meant to impress leadership rather than win wars. But those arguments come too late. Now, leadership demands miracles. Every delay feels like betrayal. Every failure feels like sabotage. Engineers are pressured to promise results they cannot guarantee. Some believe, some pretend. Some simply keep working because stopping feels worse. You can almost sense the exhaustion setting in. The Wunderwaffen are no longer symbols of future victory. They are symbols of present desperation. At the front, soldiers hear rumors of secret weapons that will turn the tide. Rockets, jets, super submarines. They cling to these stories because they need to believe something will change. Behind the scenes, those building the weapons know the truth. Nothing changes unless production changes. And production is collapsing. The Allies, meanwhile, adapt quickly. Bombing campaigns shift to target underground entrances. Intelligence tracks launch sites. Fighter patrols learn to ambush jets during takeoff and landing, when speed means nothing. Even terror loses its power when it cannot be sustained. By late 1944, rockets fall on London, jets streak through bomber formations, new submarines slip beneath the waves. All of it is impressive. None of it is decisive. Germany is racing against time, against destruction, against its own shattered infrastructure. And the race is already lost. The question is no longer whether these weapons work. They do. The question is whether working weapons matter when the war around them is already ending, and that answer is becoming clearer with every passing day. Late 1944. Over Western Europe. The bomber stream is thick, stretching across the sky in long, orderly lines. American B-17s and B-24s drone forward, engines steady, crews tense but confident. They have flown this route before, many times. Then something flashes past them. Too fast. Too quiet. A grey shape cuts through the formation like a blade, leaving shock and confusion behind it. Turrets swing, gunners fire instinctively, but the target is already gone. The Me-262 has arrived. For the first time, Allied aircrews face an enemy aircraft they cannot chase. The jet tears through bomber formations at speeds piston fighters cannot match, firing devastating bursts before vanishing into the distance. You can almost feel the shock ripple through the formation. This is not another incremental improvement. This is a leap. On the ground, German pilots describe the same sensation. For a brief moment, they feel untouchable. Allied fighters look slow, heavy, obsolete. The jet does exactly what it was designed to do. And yet, even here, the limits appear. There are too few of them. A handful of Me-262s can slash a bomber stream. They cannot stop it. The bombers keep coming. Escorts adapt. Fighter patrols circle airfields instead of formations, waiting for jets to land. Speed means nothing on the runway. Each sortie becomes a gamble. Engines fail. Fuel runs out. Maintenance crews work miracles with parts that were never meant to last this long. Pilots ration flight hours like gold. Every mission costs more than it should. On the ground in London, the future arrives differently. There is no warning siren. No rising whine of engines. Just an explosion. The V-2 rocket strikes without sound, without interception, without mercy. Buildings vanish. Streets crater. Panic spreads because there is nothing to fight back against. You can almost feel the helplessness. This is the first true ballistic missile attack in history, a weapon that falls from the edge of space faster than sound. No fighter can catch it. No gun can stop it. Technically, it is a masterpiece. Strategically, it is hollow. Each rocket consumes enormous resources, rare metals, precision components, skilled labor, entire factories hidden underground, and each one carries a relatively small warhead, striking targets chosen more for terror than military value. The Allies absorb the blows. They repair. They disperse. They continue. The terror does not translate into advantage. At sea, the pattern repeats. New German submarines slip beneath the surface, capable of staying submerged longer than ever before. Advanced designs promise to restore dominance in the Atlantic. But they arrive when the ocean is already hostile. Allied sonar is sharper, convoys are thicker, escort carriers patrol relentlessly, crews are experienced. The new submarines sink ships, yes. They also sink with them. You can almost sense the frustration building inside German command. Every new weapon works. Every new weapon performs exactly as advertised. And yet the war refuses to change. Because each weapon arrives alone. There is no mass, no continuity, no system to sustain success. The battlefield has become a test range for the future, dropped into a present that cannot support it. German scientists watch combat reports with mixed emotions. Pride at what they have achieved, dread at what it has failed to accomplish. Their designs prove that Germany still leads the world in innovation. But innovation is no longer enough. The Allies respond not by matching technology immediately, but by overwhelming it. They fly more missions, build more aircraft, train more crews, replace losses without hesitation. They do not need miracles. They need consistency. By the end of 1944, the terrifying new weapons have revealed their greatest weakness. They are exceptional. And exceptional things are useless when they cannot be repeated. Germany has built the future of warfare. But the future has arrived on a battlefield already lost, early 1945. Inside the collapsing borders of the Reich, the maps no longer lie. Red and blue arrows press inward from every direction. Cities that once housed laboratories and factories are now names crossed out in pencil. Rail lines end abruptly. Supply routes no longer connect. The war has shrunk Germany. And with it, the space to build miracles. Inside underground facilities, engineers continue working even as the ground shakes from distant artillery. Power flickers, air grows stale, materials arrive late or not at all. Some parts are replaced with inferior substitutes. Others are simply left out. You can almost feel how thin the margin has become. A jet fighter rolls off the line incomplete. A rocket launches with unstable guidance. A submarine leaves port without a full crew. Each decision is a gamble made under pressure, not a calculation made with confidence. This is what late-war innovation looks like. German leadership still demands results. Orders are issued for increased production of rockets and jets, as if numbers alone can reverse years of attrition. Engineers are told to simplify, to accelerate, to accept losses in testing. Failure is no longer an option. Except that failure is everywhere. The Me-262 units struggle to keep aircraft operational. Engines burn out after a handful of hours. Trained mechanics are scarce. Fuel allocations are inconsistent. Pilots are often sent into combat with minimal familiarization. Speed no longer guarantees survival. Allied fighters wait near known airfields, ambushing jets during takeoff and landing. Bombers strike production sites faster than they can be repaired. Every successful sortie costs Germany more than it can afford. The V2 program fares no better. Launch crews work under constant threat. Mobile launch sites move daily to avoid detection. Rockets misfire. Guidance fails. Entire teams vanish in explosions no one will officially acknowledge. And still, the rockets fall. They terrify civilians. They shake governments. They dominate headlines. But they do not stop armies. They do not halt advances. They do not save the Reich. At sea, the pattern is the same. Advanced submarines promise a return to dominance, but crews lack training time. Patrols are short. Losses are immediate. Allied anti-submarine tactics have matured too far, too fast. Germany's weapons are fighting the war that existed 3 years earlier. The Allies are fighting the war as it is. You can almost feel the realization sinking in among those closest to the programs. Not a sudden collapse of belief, but a slow understanding. There is no single machine that can undo strategic defeat. Technology cannot replace logistics. Innovation cannot replace manpower. Genius cannot replace time. By the spring of 1945, the Wunderwaffen are no longer spoken of as war winners. They are spoken of as bargaining chips, as proof that Germany still has value, still has knowledge. The future is no longer meant to save the present. It is meant to survive it. Scientists begin destroying documents. Others hide them. Some prepare to surrender to Allied forces they believe will treat them better. The race is no longer to win the war. It is to decide who inherits the knowledge. Germany's terrifying weapons have finally arrived in meaningful numbers. And they arrive to silence. To empty skies. To collapsing fronts. To a war already decided. The tragedy is not that the weapons failed. It is that they worked. They worked just well enough to show what might have been possible. And not well enough to change anything. May 1945. Germany. The war ends not with a final miracle, but with footsteps echoing through abandoned facilities. Allied troops move cautiously through forests, tunnels, and shattered towns. Behind destroyed barracks and camouflaged doors, they discover what German propaganda had promised for years. Rockets. Jet engines. Blueprints. Wind tunnels. Test aircraft. You can almost feel the shock spreading through the inspecting officers. These are not fantasies. They are real. At Peenemünde, at Mittelwerk, in underground laboratories scattered across the Reich, the Allies uncover the skeleton of a future war that never fully arrived. Half-finished weapons sit beside detailed plans for machines years ahead of anything currently in service. The question is no longer whether Germany was close. It is how close. American, British, and Soviet teams move quickly. Scientists are identified, separated, questioned. Files are seized by the truckload. Entire facilities are dismantled piece by piece and shipped west or east. The race is no longer about defeating Germany. It is about inheriting its knowledge. Men like Wernher von Braun surrender not as defeated soldiers, but as keepers of something valuable. They understand the shift instantly. The war is over, but their work is not. You can almost feel the irony. The weapons that failed to save Germany will help define the next era of warfare. American engineers study the V2 with intense focus. Within years, its descendants will shape missile programs and space exploration. Jet technology refined under desperate conditions becomes the foundation of post-war air forces. The Allies succeed not by copying Germany blindly, but by integrating innovation into systems that can sustain it. That was always the missing piece. Germany built extraordinary machines in isolation. The Allies build industries around ideas. Looking back, the pattern becomes unmistakable. Germany's greatest scientific achievements were real, revolutionary, decades ahead in some cases, but they were introduced into a collapsing structure that could not support them. Advanced weapons demand stability. They demand supply chains, training pipelines, fuel, spare parts, and time. Germany had none of these by the time its most terrifying weapons were ready. You can almost feel how cruel that timing was. Had the Me-262 appeared in 1942, with proper numbers and trained pilots, the air war might have looked very different. Had the V-2 been mass-produced earlier with strategic targeting, it might have forced painful adjustments. But wars are not won by what might have been. They are won by what can be sustained. The Allies did not reject innovation. They absorbed it. They combined German breakthroughs with American production, British intelligence, and Soviet manpower. The result is overwhelming. Germany's late war weapons do not disappear into history as failures. They live on in every jet aircraft, every missile, every rocket that reaches beyond the atmosphere. But they live on under new flags. This is the final lesson of the Wunderwaffen. Genius without infrastructure is fragile. Innovation without timing is wasted. Technology without a system is just a prototype. Germany created terrifying weapons that belonged to the future. That future simply chose different masters.